The latest email revelations come as we enter the home stretch of this campaign. General election only 9 weeks away. A brand new poll out today from CNN showing it's still anybody's game, with Donald Trump leading Hillary Clinton in this poll 45 to 43%. Meanwhile, Clinton slamming Trump's recent trip in Mexico, saying that he choked during his first face-to-face meeting with that country's leader.
It is clear that he went down with a mission. It's been the mission of his whole campaign from the very first day to demonize immigrants, to call Mexicans rapists and criminals, to do everything he could to stir up all kinds of bad feelings about hardworking people. And he didn't raise it, so he did choke.
I don't choke. She chokes. Look at the deal she's made. She's responsible for so many bad things that have happened to our country, including the signing by her husband of NAFTA, which has drained our country of its jobs.
Well, senior political correspondent Mike Emanuel now live in Tampa, Florida, where Clinton expected to hold a rally later today. And Mike, let's start there. Good day.
Well, Bill, good morning to you. Hillary Clinton will talk national security here in Tampa, and you can expect her to say that Donald Trump does not have the temperament to be commander-in-chief. A closer look at that new CNN ORC poll of likely voters reveals Trump with a big 20-point lead with independent voters. Trump has an edge on who would be the stronger leader, 50% to 42%. Clinton has a 20-point lead on having the better temperament, and she has a 5-point edge on being better able to handle being commander-in-chief. Clinton has a new campaign plane for the final 9 weeks before Election Day, and when she took some reporter questions, Clinton was asked if she understands classification of the U.S. government's information after what she told the FBI in her email probe.
I went into the State Department understanding classification. I take classification seriously. The fact I couldn't remember certain meetings, whether or not they had occurred, doesn't in any way affect the commitment that I had and still have to the treatment of classified material.
And no surprise, when reporters got a chance to ask her questions, Clinton was asked about the ongoing controversy with the Clinton Foundation.
Do you feel that you contributed to the perception that there were these blurred lines between the State Department and the Clinton Foundation by having several employees who seem to go back and forth between the two?
No, I don't, Nancy. Look, everything I did at the State Department, I did in furtherance of America's interests and our security. The State Department has said there's absolutely no evidence of any kind of external influence.
Clinton will be here for a rally at the University of South Florida, home of the Bulls, trying to win a critical part of this battleground state. Bill?
Well, Mike Emanuel, thanks. In Florida today. Thank you, Mike. Martha.
Let's bring in Steve Hayes for more on this, senior writer for the Weekly Standard and a Fox News contributor. Steve, welcome. Good to have you here this morning. Some interesting information is first with the Benghazi report that Menendez was basically wired to questions that they wanted to have asked. What do you think about that, Steve?
Well, it is interesting, and I think it's interesting because we're seeing what happens behind the scenes. It's not necessarily shocking that Democrats and in Hillary Clinton's camp were working, coordinating with Democrats on Capitol Hill. Anybody who watched the hearings live in real time understood that the Democrats on Capitol Hill, both in the Senate and in the House, were effectively just doing her bidding and setting her up with softball questions. But it is interesting to see these kind of stage directions, which we don't often see.
Yeah, and neither one of those questions are things that you would not expect to have been asked during the course of that Benghazi testimony. Let's also take a look at some of these polls, because we did see a Labor Day tightening, which I think a lot of people predicted we would see. The unfavorable numbers, which are the biggest bugaboo for both of these candidates, Hillary's at 56% unfavorable now, slightly higher than Donald Trump, who was at 54%, but neither one of those are numbers to write home about, Steve.
No, that's for sure. It corresponds with the polling that we saw last week that 44% of Americans think both candidates are terrible candidates. Look, I think that's what we're looking at going into this final stretch from Labor Day through Election Day. And it has to be said, look, Reince Priebus got a lot of grief 2 weeks ago when he predicted that Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton would be effectively tied by Labor Day. and he got that one right. So I think there are going to be some people who are snarking at Reince Priebus who probably owe him an apology.
Yeah, and also when you look at the difference over the past couple of weeks in the Trump campaign, which has gone into sort of forward mode with policy speeches, the trip to Mexico, prior to that, the trip to Baton Rouge. It's not about the press and him being attacked so much anymore. And she has basically hung back during that period. I wonder what we're going to see from her going forward, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more the negative reporting that we've seen on Hillary Clinton than Donald Trump being, a better campaigner. He certainly has caused himself less damage over the past couple weeks, I would say. But really what we've seen is a torrent of reporting on Hillary Clinton, not necessarily because she's getting tough questions, as the press gaggle that you played a clip of just a minute ago suggests. She's not getting, I think, hard questions, but she's certainly been the subject of some additional reporting and additional disclosures by groups like Judicial Watch and Citizens United that are making clear behind the scenes just how awful this email controversy and the foundation controversy is, really filling in gaps. I mean, I think everybody understood that there was this sort of pay-for-play attitude between Clinton's team and the Clinton Foundation, but we're seeing now the details of that and exactly what that means. And the revelations that we got by the disclosures of what happened in the FBI investigation are in some cases just jaw-dropping, particularly as it relates to some of her top staffers like Cheryl Mills, her chief of staff.
Yeah. So you, just one last one. You don't think the Trump campaign has improved?
No, I think they've had a better couple weeks. I do. I mean, I don't think we've heard forever that this is a pivot and that Donald Trump is going to be this new candidate. I don't think this is going to be a new candidate. I expect that we'll have additional controversies from Donald Trump down the road. But he's been better than he had been for several weeks before this. So I think he's improved. He's caused himself less trouble. But she's really had a tough 3-4 weeks here.
Yeah. All right. Steve, thank you. Good to see you.
Thanks, Martha.